Hi there, I'm Lily and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Lily Kate Makes on Instagram, and this YouTube channel is where I talk about my knitwear designing, my life as a knitwear designer, everything I make, and yeah, all that creative stuff. And today I can finally share the project that I've been going on about for a while. My new autumn collection and everything that I've been working on lately that I've been kind of not showing for ages, so I'll not mess about. I have a new yarn. Well, I have a yarn. It is the first yarn I've ever had. It's very exciting to be moving from just patterns, digital patterns, which is obviously what I love to create, and it's lovely to see people all around the world making garments, making items in my patterns, but it's also very exciting to have an actual physical product that I can see on shelves. So yeah, launching today is Lily Kate Makes Axis Worsted, my new yarn in 12 colours. And yeah, I have so much to talk about. Obviously it's been a big project of mine over the last, what are we on, about 8 months now. So it's been very exciting to finally share it. I think I'll try not to, I might split these up rather than just talking about everything, because obviously it's been like my main thing for the last few months. I've been very busy. I have lots to talk about. I could talk about it all day, so I shall try and keep it fairly concise for a first video. But yeah, I'm very excited and very warm right now, because typically as I'm launching an autumn thing, the weather is actually fairly summery. So yeah, but I felt I had to wear it. I had to do. So yes, I shall grab them all out of the basket here and come and show you. Not sure how well I'll be able to hold them all together, but it is my yarn, which is a collaboration. Well, it's being produced by Fiberspace, who were the very first company to ever work with me back when I first started designing 10 years ago now. So yeah, when I was 13. I worked with Jenny from Fiberspace and I designed a pattern for her book, and my mum photographed the book and I modelled for it, and we worked together way back then. I'll just grab the books actually. Yeah, so we first worked together on this book 10 years ago, 2011. I don't think I've changed much at all. Long time ago. And then, so yeah, when Jenny asked me earlier this year if I fancy doing a yarn, of course it was a yes from me. I was like, oh my god, yes, that would be amazing. I would love to work with you. We know that we work well together. We have done so for a long time. And it's just really been a fun process from start to finish, really. So that was only in February, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that long ago, I guess. We first was like, right, this will be good, let's do a collaboration, let's do a yarn together. And then it was very quick for us to decide on what we wanted to do. I wanted it to be a sweater yarn, we wanted it to be a worsted weight, because that just works really well. You know, I wanted it to be not too fine, that it would take too long, not too heavy, a really good all-rounder kind of sweater yarn. And then narrowing it down, the fibres and everything. I think I'm just going to do a whole separate video where I probably go into explaining it. But in short, I wanted it to be like a good substantial sweater yarn, or garment yarn even. Something that wasn't going to have too much drape, so it was going to be a non-superwash. Something that would hold its shape well but not be too stiff and also be really soft. So we ended up with a 90% merino, which is a 20.5 micron, that's a very soft merino, combined with 10% Suri alpaca, and the alpaca is actually undyed. So it's a commercially dyed yarn, it's not hand dyed, so there's solid colours, but I'll insert photos rather than trying to hold it up to the camera. That probably doesn't work too well. But yeah, the alpaca is undyed, so it's particularly evident on the darker shades that you have a really nice halo to it. So it gives you sort of a nice bit of fuzz to the item, but not too much. It's not a fluffy yarn as such, it's just a smooth merino with a sort of alpaca halo, which I've absolutely loved working with, and I have knit with it a lot over the last few months. So kind of we settled on the yarn, and we were really happy with the first samples that came back, so we didn't end up having to like send off and change things and keep asking for more, so kind of got going quite quickly, and then it was on to developing the name, the colours, the palette, the shade names, the patterns, everything like that, which I could not be more grateful for the fact that I was given complete creative control by Jenny from Fiberspace. So obviously, you know, if she'd have hated something, I'm sure she would have told me, but we agreed on everything, and I was just kind of, do what you want with it, call it what you want, do what you want to call the names, come up with it all. And it's quite difficult to come up with all of those things from scratch, but I'm really happy with everything that we settled on. So a few of them just dropped on the floor there, so I don't have all 12. But it is called Axis Worsted. So as I've mentioned on this channel before, I am also an astronomy and planetary sciences student, just done my 5th of 6 years, but this is a topic that has always fascinated me from about the same time as I started knitting actually, that well, a couple of years later, when I was around 11 or so, I actually did an astronomy, never completed it, but I did the studying for an astronomy GCSE at school, just sort of as a side thing, and absolutely loved it, and I've kind of been fascinated by that side of things for a long time, and I wanted any opportunity to combine my creative interest and my maths, physics, sciencey, astronomy interests. Any opportunity to do that I take. So I thought, right, I'm going to run with this, but I found that a lot of names relating to astronomy sound kind of cosmic, or they sound, if you talk about galaxies or whatever, I think a hand-dyed kind of yarn comes to mind for that. If you go really down the astronomy route, it's easy to, there's a lot of hand-dyed yarns with that kind of galactical feel about them, and I just think that's what comes to mind, so it didn't really seem right to go down that route with the name. So I was sort of toying around with a few different ideas of mathsy, sciencey related words, but sort of more pared back than that, more general mathsy, and when I settled on the name Axis, I was like, I love that. That is perfect. I wanted something quite short and snappy, didn't want anything long-winded. Again, because I thought it didn't sound right for a solid yarn, I felt like all those longer names suited something more variegated and speckled and sparkly. So yeah, Axis, absolutely love it. With the subtle astronomical reference, I guess you can call it, about the Earth spinning on its axis and all planetary bodies rotating on their axes, but also just in the terms of once I realised that on the label I could turn the word axis onto the other axis and have it that way around. I was like, love that, kind of a visual pun, and was like, yep, sorted. So there we go, that's kind of how it came about. So the yarn is being produced by Fiberspace, but as Lily Kate Makes Yarns. So that's how it'll be listed on Ravelry and in the patterns, and it's on the label, and that's how it'll be in stores. It's a Lily Kate Makes Yarn. The first one, which is very exciting, and I'll just keep picking up different skeins here to show you all at different times. So yeah, I think I'm going to do a whole video on actually how I chose the colour palette, because it was a task. It really took a while. So there are 12 colours, which is a reasonably extensive palette to start with for a yarn like this. But yeah, I wanted to choose them very carefully, and I think that's going to be a whole separate video. But for now, I shall just show you each colour individually and tell you the shade name. So we have Caldera, a nice bright red. Light Cone, which is on this design here that I'm wearing. I had to choose one colour to get samples of early so that I could make a start on the patterns. So I went for this Light Cone, which is a sort of really nice neutral beige, because I figured that it would be better to start with one of the neutrals if I had to pick something to start with. So I have a couple of samples in the neutrals, and of course I'm going to get on to showing you the patterns shortly, but I'm trying to pace myself here. I can just word vomit about this forever now. Yeah, so shade Light Cone. Shade Event Horizon. Nice navy, so as you can see, all astronomical references with the black holes there. And on that note, I have shade Dark Matter, a really nice dark grey here. I'm super happy with how all the colours turned out there. At first we just had little samples to go off, so I was like, I really hope that when I see it scaled up I'm going to love it, and luckily I did. shade Love Number, which is probably my favourite. And when I did a poll on Instagram the other day before showing the actual labels and everything, I kept that until the very end to show. But I've been kind of sharing bits and bobs on Instagram. Did a poll of all the colours, and this one came out top, which doesn't surprise me because it's my favourite too. And I love the name. The dynamical love number being the degree to which a planetary body is deformed by tidal forces. Who knew? So yeah, I went through the glossaries of all my textbooks from the last 5 years, picking out words that jumped back to memory, or that I just thought sounded nice, or you know, I wanted to pick things that would suit the colours but also had those references there. Shade Blue Shift, which, as my dad pointed out, it could have equally been Red Shift, and you never know, there may be a Red Shift further down the line, but for now, Blue Shift, which is a nice kind of tealy blue. There are a few blues, because I figured, again, I'll do a proper video on this, but I didn't want it to be like, I'll pick one red, one green, one blue, one yellow. I didn't want to do that because I thought that makes it quite difficult to then actually use it as a palette rather than just picking out colours individually. I wanted them to work well cohesively. So yeah, there are a few blues. This one being shade Aurora. Not sure how you would describe that as other than a sort of, it's not a sky blue, but it's got a slight green, it's more greener to it than a sky blue, but yeah. Shade Aurora. Shade Parallax, which is a much softer, kind of getting towards a light greyish pale blue, but I love this shade as well. This is Parallax. Shade Quiescence. Sorry, I do know all the names off by heart, I'm just checking that I've got them all in the right order here. Yeah. This is Quiescence, a light grey, very light grey actually. I'm looking forward to knitting in this one. Penumbra was another favourite in the poll that I did actually, which doesn't surprise me because I love it, and my test knitters really like this one too. So it's a really nice dark green, because I toyed with the idea of doing a brighter green, thinking, oh, should a palette have a green in it, and thought, you know what, no, it doesn't have to. Like I said, I didn't want to do sort of tick box colours, and I think this is it's a lovely rich green for people who do like that kind of shade, but it's not sort of too in your face. I find green can be a bit divisive. I personally don't particularly wear bright greens. I only wear like dark greens or sagey greens, and this was supposed to be, you know, it's my palette. I want other people to like it, and of course I want it to be something for everyone in there, but I didn't want to stray away from doing something that I really don't like just for the sake of ticking a box. So we have a nice dark green that I absolutely love. That's shade Penumbra. This one is shade Helio, which is another one that I'm absolutely loving. I find that it really lifts the palette actually. Once I got them all back, all the samples, which was only in the middle of August, so it's been a bit manic knitting since then. When I hold them all up together, let me just pick a random few. This is literally what's on the top of the pile, which was the blues there. But I just have found that this yellow works really well as an accent. It just kind of lifts things. So yeah, love how that all works out. Shade Helio. And the final one is just a natural undyed, which I knew that I wanted it to be a really pale colour, a cream kind of colour, and thought obviously you have to bleach if you want bright white, so we didn't want to do that. And also, but then going the other way, I thought if you try to mess about with a cream and be like, oh, let's just add a little bit of warmth to it, or let's just add a little bit of this colour, you can very easily end up with a peachy colour or like a yellowy magnolia paint kind of colour, which I definitely didn't want. So I thought, you know what, just leave it as it is, if it ain't broke and all that. So this is just natural undyed. Which just brings me on to what I'm wearing today. So this is the project that I have been speed knitting since August, because with all the others we had navy, 10 skeins of navy that arrived first, so I was able to make a sweater in that. And then we had 100 skeins of the beige that arrived, which is light cone, so I was able to make a sweater and a vest in that. We'll get to these. But I knew that I wanted a design that had a couple of colours in it, a slip stitch pattern, so for that I was waiting on the main yarn delivery, so that's kind of been a little bit last minute, but luckily it's all kind of come together nicely. So I should just stand up so you can see this one, which is really not weather appropriate today. I am absolutely boiling, but there's no way I can film this video without wearing one of them, so here we are. Yeah, it's super cozy. This is the Winkley cardigan. I only literally came up with the names the other day, I'll be honest. I was waiting until I saw it all together, and I actually wanted to see it all photographed, because that kind of, once I've done the photos, that kind of gives me a better idea, excuse me, of the mood of the collection. Obviously I had all the designs in mind individually, but yeah, I've ended up going with names that are street names of the place in Preston, the area in Preston where we took all the photographs. Because for ages I was thinking, oh, I've got to go along with the theme with this, sort of the maths, science, the axis, and then all the names of the colours that are all along that sort of theme. But then I was kind of struggling to pick names that suited them, that also all went together, because I thought I didn't want to just name them after, I considered prominent scientists, but then I thought, you know, I wouldn't be picking the 5 scientists I'm most inspired by or anything like that. I would be picking the people whose names I thought suited a cardigan or suited a hat, and I just thought that felt a bit shallow to choose people in that way, so I thought better leave that. I might do something else named after people at some further down the line and just name these after places. That felt like a better route to go down. So yeah, they're all named after streets in the Avenham area of Preston. I already have an Avenham cardigan, was kind of kicking myself that I'd already used that name last year, because damn it, that would have been well good. But yeah, they're all around that area of town. So this is the Winkley cardigan, named after Winkley Square, which is a lovely little square and area in Preston. And this is it my favourite? It's really hard for me to pick favourites because they all feel like my babies right now. But yeah, I do love how this turned out. It's a little bit different for me in that it's a little bit longer and looser. You may have seen that I tend to go for quite cropped fitted designs, which there are in this collection, but yeah, I went a little bit longer and looser with this one and I absolutely love it. So all the patterns are available just in the usual way via my blog, Ravelry and Etsy. We are actually going to be selling printed patterns, but only at events, which is where this yarn is going to be launching at Yarndale tomorrow. I'm trying to think right now. I'm filming this a couple of weeks in advance and getting confused. Yeah, so Yarndale, which is on the 25th and 6th of September. The yarn itself and the patterns are all launching today, which is going to the 24th of September. So yeah, they shall all be available online through various retailers. I will add links to the description with a list of retailers that are stocking this yarn. Just, you know, finalising things, so I'll not rattle off a list of names now, but it's definitely available in multiple stores in the UK, US, Australia, I think in Europe, although I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be in time for launch, but I'll put all the details below anyway. But yeah, it's exciting that it's actually going to be on the shelves in all these places, so I can't wait to go into my local yarn store and be like, oh, that's mine. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting when I can first actually do that. So, and of course it'll be available online as well. I'm not selling it directly myself, may do at some point, but I thought let's not bite off more than I can chew at this point. So yeah, it's available through various different retailers, which will be, I think I'm going to make like a retailer's map or something like that, so it's easy to find where it's available to you. I keep going off on tangents here. I should have probably made myself a little plan, but anyway. So yes, patterns. Patterns are all at this point will be available via Ravelry, blog, Etsy, the usual places, and they will also be available as an ebook, which will be, so the total price of the 4 garments and a hat would be £31 if you purchase them individually, or as an ebook you can have the whole lot for £27, which that will also be listed on all 3 of those platforms. But yeah, they're just as PDF patterns, there's not a book or anything like that yet. So yeah, that's design number 1, the Winkley cardigan, which I think it's a great way to use a colour that is a little bit scary to you. So I wouldn't wear this in all over yellow. The only yellow item I own like that is a raincoat, and I feel like that's a bit different. But yeah, this actually used about 1.5 skein of the shade Helio, which I was surprised at actually how far that went. So yeah, it's 100 metres per 50 gram skein. Probably should have mentioned that beforehand. The worsted weight, I'm knitting to 18 stitches and 24 rows generally on a 5mm needle. So obviously there's a few different stitch patterns and a few different gauges involved in all of these garments, but that's in general. And if I come a little closer and show you the stitch pattern, and also these piping binding bits here, which is my favourite detail. So I love how that gives a kind of raised effect here. I wanted it to look like upholstery binding, and I think it was effective. So yeah, that's my favourite detail. Really think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of this cardigan, although maybe when the weather eventually cools down, maybe not quite yet. Anyway, that is number 1. Not that there's an order, they're just 5, but you know, that's the first one. The second one I shall show you, just bring Dolly Dearest. In fact, I've brought her too close that you can't really see it all now. This is the Bestow sweater, which is here in shade Light Cone. A couple of my testers have done it in brighter shades as well, which is lovely to see. And again, this is a little bit longer and looser than my usual style. So this one was worked from the bottom up and then sleeves top down seamlessly, all seamless. And this one is worked from the top down with a drop shoulder, shaping across the top here, a little bit of short row shaping, slight short row shaping to the sleeve cap there. But the main detail, I should probably move it a little further away if it's scooch around, is this waist tie here, which from the front just looks like a sash belt. From the back, it's actually incorporated into the garment itself for a couple of reasons. Number one, that structurally I thought it made more sense to have it as part of the actual garment, in that otherwise a belt might sort of crumple in on itself, and I wanted it to stay nice and wide and flat and stay really neat in one place. I didn't want it to be able to slip up and down, because that can be not great in terms of pilling with garments if you had a thick belt that moves up and down. So I thought if it stays in one place at the back, it's unlikely to move at the sides either. And then I just thought it looked really nice to have these pleats here, which obviously you can wrap it and sort of how I have here with kind of a pleat, or you could just let it sort of more gather and rumple here a bit more randomly. Both look good. And then the final reason was that I thought if you leave that until the end, no one's going to want to cast on 280 stitches or whatever it is, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's quite a lot of stitches, obviously it's a long waist belt. No one's going to want to cast on that many stitches at the end and knit in moss stitch for 30 rows. So I figured that would be the kind of thing that would just get forgotten about. It wouldn't happen and you'd think, oh, I'll just wear a belt with it instead, I'll just wear another non-knitted belt. So I thought it's better to break up the expansive stocking stitch of the body with the waistband here, and then it's done. And it's not left until the end, you can't put it off. And then, I think I'd have to move back to it. I'll insert the photos here rather than trying to show you, but it has a very gently dipped back hem as well, just so that it doesn't, because this pulls in, so that the waistband doesn't kind of pull the back hem up, and I figured that's quite a nice detail to have a really gentle dipped back hem too. And then long straight sleeves, or virtually straight anyway, with a deep moss stitch cuff, which I haven't worn it too much yet obviously because it's not been the weather for it, but when we were shooting it I really like it long and sort of down over the hand here as a wide sleeve, but it also looks really nice with the moss stitch turned up, because it stays in position quite well when it's worn. There's a turn back off there if you want it sort of more like bracelet length. So, and obviously they can be made to whatever length you wish. So that is the Bestow sweater, which I cannot wait to wear a lot more when the weather cools down a little bit, because it's super cosy. I really loved styling all of these items actually. There were lots of different ways that I wanted to wear them. I'm definitely going to be making like styling reels and doing lots of outfit posts and everything. And now I'm like, oh my god, I've got so much to share. I've got yarn and colours and knits and sweaters and styling, and it's like, I can kind of trying to keep my mouth shut for so long, and now I can actually share it all. So yeah, it's going to be a relief to have it all out there. So I'll show you the next design. So as I mentioned, I had plenty of the shade light cone, so I actually started with that and made my first sample of a Ribblesdale vest, which I probably should have buttoned up more actually. It is a brioche stitch vest, slip over, whatever the hell we're calling these things, and then I guess it's kind of a waistcoat actually. Here in the green, which I will insert the photos again because this one doesn't seem to show up particularly well when I just hold it to there without, you know, it's too dark for the camera to pick up well. But I absolutely love knitting these two. It was, well, my mum knit one of them, I knit the first sample. Persuaded my mum to have a go at brioche, which she said she would never do, but then that can prove that it's a good first brioche project. So yeah, this one's worked from the bottom up with a nice deep waistband, so you don't have to start brioche stitch straight away. So that's the main reason really that I think it is an ideal first brioche project, that you don't have to go straight into it. You can establish it with the just the regular ribbing first off. It's all worked in one piece, but all worked flat obviously, so there's no brioche purling, only knitting, and there are only decreases, not increases, so it's not too much to worry about there. And it's just finished really nicely with 1x1 rib around the front for the nicely finished look, but then around the armholes, no 1x1 rib there, that's just I-cord, so you wouldn't know, you wouldn't look at it and say, oh yeah, that's I-cord, it just blends in. But I love how it looks around around the bottom of the armhole there. That's super neat and just finished nicely. It's very satisfying detail. And this one doesn't take too much yarn, so in my size this took just under 4 skeins, and I think by my calculations it's up to 9 skeins for the largest size. The patterns have been test knit, but obviously it's been a lot more scaled back than usual, so I haven't had like 30 testers for each pattern. They have been tested by a couple of different people, but because everything has to be knit in this yarn, it wasn't just kind of a free-for-all, oh, I'll have loads of testers and they can use whatever yarn they want. There was a budget. So yeah, that was working with Jenny there too. We selected the testers and kept it as a nice small group, so just to keep things manageable really. Yeah, the patterns have been tested, and at this moment testers haven't quite finished, so I don't have the photos to show you, but they will be all available when the patterns are available, so you can have a look at it on different people. But yeah, that is my Ribblesdale vest, because I wanted there to be something for kind of for everyone really. In some garments obviously take a lot of yarn, so yeah, it's retailing at £7.20 a skein in the UK, which does vary slightly around the world, but I'll have all those details down below. So yeah, I wanted it to be wanted there to be patterns that some used a smaller amount of yarn, some used more, some were fitted, some were looser, kind of trying to cover as many bases as possible with the first collection, but without just ticking boxes. I wanted them to still be my style, but in different ways. So yeah, camera just cut out on me there because I'd been filming too long. I said I'd try and keep this video short, but you know, I just have too much to share, so I'm not quite sure where that cut off, but we'll move on. Anyway, so there is one accessory pattern in this collection. As I said, we wanted this to be a garment yarn. That's what I enjoy most, that's what I do best, I think. But it also works great for cozy accessories too, so I did want there to be one in there. So this is the Starkey beanie, which I'll be honest, I find accessories the hardest to design because I love simple accessories. I really like just sort of simple sporty beanies, simple scarves. I actually wear a lot of fabric scarves rather than knitted scarves. Don't really do shawls, and cowls I find are useful for a relatively short time in this country, but hats, simple sporty kind of basic hats are what I love to wear. But obviously I didn't want to just design a 1x1 rib hat or something boring like that. So what I settled on in the end, after swatching a few different combinations, I knew I really wanted to use this red and pink. I love them together. So this is shades, oops, it's all falling all over, Caldera and Love Number here. I love these together so much. I'm going to swatch a few different things. But yeah, I first swatched this 2-colour brioche and thought, oh my god, love it. I know I'd already done one brioche pattern, but as soon as I saw this I was like, I have to use it. I'm sorry, but I have to. And then once I'd swatched this and thought, actually I really like it on both sides. And then with a hat, obviously you turn up the brim, so that kind of does that part for you. But I thought, I wonder if there's a way that you can also flip the colour dominance within the round, so it's not only just a change at the brim where it folds up, but also within the round. So I'm looking at the screen here, and even though I've got my contact lenses in, I can't really see how well you can see. But yeah, so there is one quadrant of the hat where the colour dominance is reversed, which you have to do a little bit of nifty slipping around. All the details are in the pattern, but once you get it established, it works really well, and is also very neat on the inside. So here where it changes, hopefully you can see this, here where the colour changes, it then flows down and is completely neat on the inside too. So really, if it wasn't for the decreases at the top, and obviously the fact that you have to weave your ends in somewhere, if it wasn't for that, it would actually be totally reversible really. So that's it, inside out. Yeah, so this is the Starkey beanie, again named after a street around the Avenham area. I really like styling this one actually. I styled it a little bit different to the others. The others was kind of quite autumnal. I was thinking the kind of outfit you would go for lunch in, and a lot of them are kind of casual but nice. But for this one I have a bright red puffer jacket, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go a little bit more like sporty. I really like it. I should probably just put it on actually, shouldn't I? Not for long because I'm too hot. But yeah, so at first glance, depending which angle you look at it from, it might just look like a simple 2-colour brioche beanie, but there is actually, have we got that right there? Yeah, so checking in the mirror. There's actually the change in the colour dominance there, which is just a nice little technique. And one of my test knitters is going to be knitting it. I say going to be, we're quite to the wire with some of these things, but it will get done in time. She's going to be knitting it in these 2 shades. And I'm going to do some swatches in various different combinations. I'm kind of liking all the different blues. It was difficult to choose which 2 to put together, but as you can see, we have sort of a fade there, well, a blend, whatever you want to call it, within the blues, and I think that will work really well. Because much as I also think it would look great if you say picked the navy, so Event Horizon and Albedo, sorry I don't think I mentioned the shade of that, the natural is called Albedo, much as I think they would look great, I think that would give a much bolder wedge. It wouldn't be as subtle as this is, so I might, don't know, I haven't decided if I want something quite so high contrast. I'm working with the lower contrast shades for now. I also think it would be really nice in the neutrals as well, so lots of options. Yeah, so before I move on to show you a few more swatches that I've been working on, to show you the final garment, which is the Cadogan sweater. Oh, I'm getting really warm now holding this up, so shall insert the photos. This was actually the first one that I made. So this was, we got 10 skeins of navy back in April, I want to say. So this is the first yarn that arrived. I absolutely loved it and thought, right, I want to get to work straight away. Obviously knew that it had to be something that took less than 10 skeins, ideally less than 9, then I still had some left to play around with, which it did. I think it used about 8.5 in the end. It was so long ago that I can't quite remember. Yeah, it feels strange that I was knitting on these. I remember knitting it on the beach in Wales in April, a long time ago. And now it's finally all come together, so yeah, that was the first one, which I kind of knit this and then moved back onto other garments, other designs in different yarns whilst I was waiting for more yarn to arrive. Yeah, long time since I wrote the pattern. This is being tested in a couple of different colours. I'm looking forward to seeing the bright red version, that's going to look amazing. Yeah, so this is a square neck at the front, ribbed bodice in 2x2 rib. I worked from the bottom up just because I thought it's easier to just cast on and do a nice chunk of rib and then start doing your shaping and your casting off and your straps and everything, rather than starting with the fiddly bits at the top. So yeah, that's worked bottom up for the body, and then a classic Lily Kate Makes sleeve with a big poofy bit here and then nice drapey sleeves and gathered into a deep ribbed cuff. So I'm looking forward to wearing that one. That's obviously more fitted and kind of more the style that I've done a lot of, so what you might more associate with my kind of style. I feel like they all feel very me but in different ways, which is exactly what I wanted. And that is all the patterns for now, so like I said, they are available as an ebook. But before I wrap this up, I will just show you, obviously there are 5 patterns and 12 colours, so I wasn't going to be able to show off all the colours, and just because the shade Light Cone here is what arrived first, that's what I had early samples of, I was able to have more samples than that, but I feel like that doesn't then give an accurate representation of the whole palette because I didn't get as much of the bright colours in there. So me and my mum have been working on lots of little swatches here just so that we could have in time for Yarndale and in time for the launch, just sort of have more swatches to show you different ways to use the yarn beyond obviously I've done these patterns. I will be doing lots more patterns. Something colour work is at the top of my list, but yeah, it makes a great yarn for other people's patterns too. There's obviously no reason you have to make my patterns, and on that note, there is no need that you have to use my yarn to knit my patterns. They're all available for people to knit in whatever yarn you want. Obviously I'd love for people to do them in my yarn, but yeah, the yarn can be used for others, the patterns can be used without my yarn. That is of course the case. Anyway, I feel like I need to just take deep breaths and slow down here because I'm getting overexcited. We've been swatching, and the first swatch I want to show you that I absolutely love is a fade here, a blend with all 4 shades of blue. So we have Parallax, Aurora, Blue Shift and Event Horizon, knit with 2 strands at a time. Let's scoot forward again. Another one I haven't showed you there, shade card. So I'll have these for shops and stuff like that. That's how they all look together. Yeah, so the 4 different shades blended using 2 strands, then dropping one and introducing the next, you know, all that. I love this detail. So it makes quite a thick fabric actually because it's held double. It's up as a chunky and I love it. Going to use that at some point. Just did a little bit of colour work swatching. This was before the main whole range of colours arrived, so at this point I had navy and beige and that was it. Yeah, I love how the light stitch looks there, so planning to use that at some point. And then it kind of happened by accident that I'll insert the slides here that I've used on the Zoom presentations that I've done with retailers. So I'm losing track of what I've said when because I've talked about it so many times now on Zooms and stuff, but it kind of happened by accident that there are 2 ranges within the colour palette. So one range that is kind of sporty, I'll put that on the screen now, quite bright and fresh and very much an all year round kind of range, and then just show you like these colours here. This is a swatch that I made when I first got the yarn to knit this and was like, I really hope it doesn't run, so I sort of knit a test swatch, left it in warm water for ages. I did everything I could that would have made it run to check that it didn't, and the water ran completely clear, so that was a relief. But I love this just as stripes. A few different like the darker shades with, again like I said, the yellow accent that works really well. Just various different moss stitch combinations. Another one here that I can't think which flag it is, but it's definitely looking like a flag. But I love these 3 together to use in some way. Slip stitch patterns. So yeah, there's quite a sort of clean, fresh, sporty look about that, which I would love to design a whole new collection and shoot that in that way. So we'll see how that goes. And then, as well as the kind of sporty feel, we used a lot of slip stitch patterns actually because they show off, they blend the colours well in a swatch. That means you don't have to do colour work for that. It's a more sort of vintage kind of soft combinations with the green and the pink. Yeah, so just show you a few of these. I'm obsessed with 2 colour brioche for this yarn, so I'm loving how this knits up with changing the background colour with all the neutrals, using a couple of greys together. It's a funny one because when I did the polls asking about favourite colours, I kind of predicted that the pink and the green would be most popular, so Love Number and Penumbra, and they were really popular. I really like how this looks, but I think if you're just trying to pick your favourite colour, very few people are going to pick like the dark grey as a favourite colour, because it's, you know, so it's eye-catching as bright pink and saying that's your favourite, is it? But it's actually, I think, going to be really useful in combinations and stuff, so I think it works well in combination. Use with other things, and I think that's probably enough for my first video. I've just word vomited for the last 40 minutes or so. I hope you like the yarn, I hope you like the collection, patterns. It's so nice to finally be able to share it. And yeah, so I'm going to be at Yarndale with Emily Folds. Laylee from Emily Folds Knits is stocking my yarn there. So kind of on last minute setup mode for that now. Gonna have a stand, gotta have the banners, the patterns. My first time exhibiting at this kind of show, so I'm super excited. So if you're going to Yarndale, please come and say hi. I'm not sure what the stand number is, but we're in the middle. That's all I know. Yeah, exciting. Thank you so much to Jenny, of course, for working with me on this. Jenny and Andy at Fibre Space, Chester Wool Company, who have worked with me and had faith in me, and you know, I haven't had to be like, please work with me, I hope I'm trustworthy. They fully trust me, I fully trust them. We work together brilliantly. It's all been really fun, the process. I'm very grateful to them for giving me this opportunity. So yes, I think that's everything. I'm just looking at my pile here being like, is that all of it? Yeah. Trade card. Design those two. Yeah. I'll do more stuff about this, and I'm going to be designing in it lots and lots, of course. So can't wait. Glad it's autumn, glad it's finally here, glad I can share about it all, and thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you, bye!